In terms of timeline, if our goal was to aim to have something for the council's consideration this calendar year, the timeline is very, very tight to do that. In order to do that, we would be planning commission next month, at the Community and Economic Development Committee of the council in November with the independent fiscal analysis, or if not sooner, and then for council consideration late November, early December. So I do get regular reports from our team. I can assure you they're doing everything in their power to negotiate a good deal for Oakland and Oaklanders.
It concerns, I think, everybody who wants this project to happen, everybody out in the community, the fans or supporters of whoever they may be, should be concerned, because we really should have, this all should have been done by now. And I say to many people, if you really want this to happen, you better go talk to the A's and get them to start making sure they're willing to give us a good deal, or offer a good deal, or agree to a good deal, so it can happen. And I keep on telling people who might come up to me or lobby me, or lobbying whoever they're lobbying, go lobby the A's, because they're the ones who need to be lobbied. There's still work to do, and if the A's really want to be here, they have to be willing to offer a good deal, or a fair deal, and that's what it's going to take to get the council to say yes. And so, all you supporters and fans out there, go lobby the A's. That's what you got to do.
You can't necessarily detail the risk that is outlined in this document, then, because it says, as a result, under the current structure, there is a risk that the city would be required to fund the remaining costs, as well as any cost overruns, each of which may prove significant. So we have no idea in terms of dollars and cents what that risk would be.
So we don't at the moment, but we will include that in the cost benefit analysis. What we're working towards is structuring a deal that minimizes or eliminates that risk.
And with that, what is the expected turnaround time from when staff and the A's through negotiations feel like they have something that's close, or what they think would work? The time between that and the time that we would be looking, staff would be expected, or council would be expected to make a decision, and then how much time within there is established for the independent audit to be developed, to be published, reviewed, interrogated, et cetera? Or is that timeline still unknown?
Yeah, through the chair, it's not specifically known. As I said, in order for us to get before the council this year, we would need to get to planning commission next month and council in mid-November, which really means we need to wrap up our negotiations with the A's within the next week or so. So it would be from that point forward. I don't know how much time the consultants will need to do that analysis, but that would be about a 6-week timeline, I guess. That would be the window that they would have to do it and to publish it well in advance, so that the council and public can review it. So that would be, I guess, the best case.
So if that's the goal, the time to finalize terms is now.
Yes.
The proposed terms. Okay.
Will that be, do you think that will be in January, February?
So through the chair, the best case would be we wrap up negotiations this month.
Mm-hmm.
We're at planning commission next month, and we could be at the council as early as November.
I do appreciate the hard work that our staff team is doing around these negotiations. Concur with Council Member Kolb in terms of, let's keep pushing on the A's. We want a good deal here for the city. We'll take nothing less.
We are pursuing all avenues to close the gap for the offsite infrastructure, but it does remain a challenge. And there are risks to infrastructure projects in terms of cost. So part of the challenge in negotiating is to make sure that the city is protected from those risks. The city's general fund, which I know is the direction that we got from council, that's what's been a challenge in part to negotiate. But I do want to restate that the majority of the projects and funding are for projects that are necessary and will benefit our neighborhoods, businesses, residents, and visitors, regardless of what happens with the project. So the fact that our staff has been successful in securing as much as they have is great news. I do want to make clear, and particularly to respond to a number of the public comments, that it is absolutely our intent to commission an independent fiscal and economic analysis and bring that to the council and the public for its review before we ask the council to vote on anything. So that is still absolutely part of our plans. It's something that I feel would be important for me to even be able to recommend something to the council. Certainly it's something that the council and the public deserve to have. So we will absolutely do that as this item was originally intended. We can't do it until we have a deal negotiated, because once we have the terms of the deal, then we can do the fiscal and economic analysis, and we're absolutely committed to do that. Please know that our negotiators remain hard at work trying to hammer out a final deal, but it's complex, and as you know, we're not going to make the mistakes. We're not going to bring you a deal that repeats the mistakes of the Raiders, or of maybe what's happening with the Nationals in DC. To date, the city has been successful in securing, or is in the process of securing, $321 million of federal, state, and regional funding for a suite of infrastructure projects, many of which will broadly benefit Oakland's downtown, Chinatown, West Oakland, and the Jack London district, as well as the port, with or without the ballpark, whether this development happens or not. And I do want to just make sure that that point is clear. The majority of when we're talking about offsite infrastructure is for projects, some of which have been long planned, some of which have long been in our capital improvement program, that will improve safety and access, transit use, and connectivity between those neighborhoods and our waterfront. Again, whether this project happens or not. So the good news is that we've been able to raise a lot of money. The not so good news is that in the intervening year, since receiving that directive from the council to pursue these funds for the offsite infrastructure, we've also been working hard to update the plans and the budgets that were based on the original estimates provided by the A's. And like everything else, those costs have gone up. So that process has identified significant new and higher costs of implementing the offsite infrastructure. So that leaves more work to do to close the gap. So we do, therefore, based on our current assumptions, project a funding gap at this time. So our challenge now is to identify sufficient funds to support the work needed to complete the offsite infrastructure, while ensuring that unexpected increases in costs will not adversely impact the general fund. As I said, we have not reached agreement with the A's on an agreement that we are comfortable to bring to the council for its consideration. The main open items are as follows. One is coming to agreement on the schedule of performance, timeline, and remedies around the parties' respective obligations to complete the ballpark and the offsite infrastructure. That's one area that we're still working on. The extent of the enhanced infrastructure financing district and additional investment into on-site infrastructure, and which project tax revenue streams go to fund on-site or off-site infrastructure. And just to pause for a sec, the big picture is that the developer is on the hook to pay for the ballpark, all the buildings on the site, and the on-site infrastructure. The tax increment from property taxes is available to reimburse the developer for on-site public infrastructure, such as streets and parks. The city grants, or the grants that the city has secured, would be supporting the offsite infrastructure. As I mentioned, project generated revenues other than property tax could be used as contingency for that as well. There is some now discussion about changing the contours perhaps of the infrastructure financing district, which would allow for a potential greater capture of property tax increment. But still, it would really, the concept is the only increment that's generated because of the project would be available. So that's where we're trying to finalize those details. And then finally, we do continue to negotiate over community benefits, including the amount of on-site affordable housing, making sure that we're following the council's direction, as well as there's a set aside from that project site-specific property tax increment that is meant to go to support the off-site affordable housing. And lastly, the scope and tenure of the A's non-relocation commitments, very standard in any kind of stadium deal to have a non-relocation agreement. If we're going to do all this work, we want to make sure the A's are going to stay. So we're still working on those details. So that's what's left to be done. Those are definitely some meaty issues, but we are working in earnest and in good faith to try to get those resolved.